We're on right now.
Okay. I'm going to close your door then, like you should have.
Yes. Constance is saying she's closing the door right now. I think I'm live right now. I had to, I guess, uh, upgrade to the new Facebook type setup here. Uh, let's see here. Yes, I think people are responding. So once again, here we go again. We are on, let's see, My Life with the Spirits, Part 3. Part 3 today. Thank you very much. Well, I hope we're actually going because it's a pretty fun part of the chapter. If you recall yesterday, we had gotten to the point of where my Goetic evocation to turn my life around wasn't being very successful. As a matter of fact, it was being such a flop that I had the equivalent of a magical nervous breakdown in my circle, and that I had finally come to realize that the demon or the spirit in this type of ceremony is actually the problem that the magician wants to overcome, and the only one that can overcome that problem is the magician. So in a sense, the magician has captured the absolutely correct spirit into the triangle. I ranted for what seemed to be forever before I came back to myself in the circle. I blinked and squinted through the tears and sweat and strained to see what was happening in the triangle. I didn't see anything, but something most definitely was happening. The feeling was unmistakable. I was no longer alone in the room. It was like waking up from an unsettling dream to discover that your dog is just inches away from your face staring at you. I stood up and leaned forward for a better look. I was not prepared for this. I was only prepared for failure. The change in the atmosphere in the room was unmistakable. I was paralyzed with wonder. I completely forgot the object of the operation. I knew without a doubt the spirit was present in the triangle. I'd soon have to deal with it. Second by second, it became more tangible. I flushed with embarrassed confusion. It was really going to happen. I was about to meet a Goetic demon. A large drop of sweat scurried from my scalp over my forehead and dripped into my right eye socket just below the bridge of my nose. It stung and made my eyes water. I quickly wiped both eyes with the fingers of my left hand. The powerful smell of cinnamon triggered a terrifying alarm. My fingers were still covered with oil of abramelin. Like the biggest idiot in the world, I just rubbed sweat and concentrated cinnamon oil into both my eyes. A second later, I was blinded by the most excruciating pain I had ever experienced. It was as though someone or something had jabbed red-hot pokers into my eyes. I tried to open one eye and then the other, but air exacerbated the agony. My God, I thought, this is the equivalent of a magical industrial accident. I spun around in the circle like a wounded animal. I couldn't leave the circle. It would break every rule of Solomonic magic. But what could be worse than this? I knew I had to get to the shower and rinse my eyes, or I might never see again. With my eyes squeezed tightly shut, I leveled my wand in the general vicinity of the triangle. "Stay!" I barked, as if commanding a disobedient dog. "Stay! Stay there until I come back." As I stumbled blindly toward the bathroom door, the most extraordinary thing occurred. I could see. I could see the whole scene, as if I were perched somewhere in the ceiling. I saw myself moving toward the bathroom door with that stupid little beanie on my head. I saw the circle and the divine names. I saw the carpet, the windows, and the bed. I saw the triangle, and inside the triangle, I saw the demon Ouroboros. A miniature black horse, standing patiently. It had an almost comic, oversized head with huge round eyes, and it looked bored. Under other circumstances, I would have been awestruck by this clairvoyance, but it meant less than nothing to me. I was fighting to save my eyesight. I could care less about magic or demons or food or cars or rent or tomorrow. As I lurched past the triangle, I shook my wand at Ouroboros and again shouted, "Stay!" The little horse obeyed by casually kneeling first on its front legs, then dropping its hind legs and rump to the floor. Inside the bathroom, I stripped and blindly fumbled to find the cold water knob for the shower. I stuck my face into the icy stream and tried in vain to open my eyes. I had to hold them open with my fingers. I struggled to find the soap so that I could wash the oil of a bromelain off of my fingers. It seemed like it took forever. I carefully held both eyelids open with the thumb and forefinger of each hand and rolled my eyes madly to let the cold water pour over every inch of tortured eyeball. I'm not sure how long I stood there. Eventually, I was able to keep my eyes open without having to hold them open. I wept when I finally discovered I could see. The tears brought more relief to my eyes. The first thing I saw was my little blue yarmulke. It must have still been on my head when I got in the shower. It was plugging the drain, and it was slurping loudly like a straw vacuuming the last drops of a giant milkshake. I pushed it away with my toe. Reluctantly, I turned off the water and stepped out of the tub. I caught my reflection in the mirror of the medicine cabinet. I looked like a demon. The whites of my eyes were bright blood red and shot with scores of tiny crow's feet veins. I had huge purple bags under my eyes, and strings of snot clung to my mustache and beard. My hair stuck straight up and out over my ears, forming an insipid crown of dripping spikes. Some wizard, I thought. I reached into the tub and retrieved my magic cap. I put it back on my head without wringing it out. I again looked at myself in the mirror. I was wet and naked except for my soaking yarmulke. I started to laugh. It felt good to see my demonic face smile. Then I really laughed. A great deep breath laugh that doubled me forward and left me hanging to the sides of the sink with both hands. I guess I had another emotional breakdown. This time it seemed like a healthy discharge of energy. It gave me a clean feeling of intense relief. I was very anxious to get back into the circle and talk to Orobos. I put on my robe, straightened my cap, picked up my wand, and went back into the temple. I didn't look into the triangle until I was back in the circle. I didn't see Orobos at all. But he was still there, all right. I could tell because the triangle was still heavy with the smell of cinnamon, body odor, and fear. I broke with tradition and sat down in my asana and addressed Orobos. I chose my words very carefully and whispered them slowly and clearly. To my surprise, I heard his replies simultaneously, as if his answers rode upon the same mental wave that carried my words to him. Before I could finish asking him why he burned my eyes, he was already pointing out the fact that only an idiot would put cinnamon oil near his eyes in this heat. I had to laugh and agree. Then I continued with my original outline of questions. I first determined if Orobos was aware of the various powers attributed to him in the book, and if so, was he capable of exercising those powers? The answer being in the affirmative, I commenced to itemize the details of my predicament and charged him with the duty of immediately doing something to turn my life around. I will not presume to tell you how to go about it, I told him. I do not intend to micromanage you or the spirits under your command. I only want it done now, within 1 hour of the end of this ceremony, and you will do it without harming me, my family, or friends, or pets. Do you understand? He indicated that he understood. But even as I was giving him orders, I was thinking to myself, how 1 hour isn't very much time to see some results. What if nothing happens? Then I'll be back in the same depressing position of failure. Perhaps I should give him a day or two to pull this miracle off. Or a week. Or a month. Or 6 months. Yes, something most definitely will happen within 6 months so that I'll be able to say to myself, it worked. Yes, Lon, you're a successful magician. Then I stopped myself. No, don't listen to him. This is not me talking, it's the damned spirit. That's how these guys operate. This imp has been counseling me my whole life with this kind of crap. This is exactly the kind of thinking that is screwing me up. No wonder demonic evocation has always been accompanied by tales of Faustian covenants and pacts with the devil. No, this is where it stops. This is my chance to break this self-destructive cycle. That is precisely the reason I've got this little bastard in the triangle. Be still, I said. 1 hour, and I meant 1 hour. If you serve me well, I will carve your sickle in metal or stone that will last 1,000 years. I will sing the praises of your great power and loyalty. Obey me, and I will be a kind and loving master. I will raise you spiritually, even as I am raised. Help me to redeem myself, and I will be the key to your redemption. But if you fail me, I will conjure you only once more, and I will remember the pain in my eyes as I singe your sigils in the fire. If you are not for me, you are against me, and I will not hesitate to annihilate you utterly. I don't know where I got the surge of righteous indignation, but this time it came straight from the heart. The words just poured from my mouth, and the entire formula of Goetic evocation fell into place. I felt like a magical grown-up. Oribas immediately agreed. 1 hour. That was it. I had no more to say. I gave Oribas the license to depart as if I had recited it 1,000 times. It included the standard stipulation that I could subsequently summon him at any time without the heroics of a full formal conjuration. I banished the temple with the pentagram and hexagram rituals. I remained standing in the circle for a few minutes and waited for the infernal atmosphere in the room to dissipate. Oribas was gone. I took the sigil out of the triangle and wrapped it and the other talismans in linen bags and put the triangle and the divine names into a large envelope. I put my wand back in its red silk bag and changed back into street clothes. I pulled up the tape circle and threw the sticky wad into the bathroom wastebasket, and then threw every towel I could find on the bathroom floor to soak up the water. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Did that really happen? My blood-red eyes confirmed that it did. The temple was now again my son's bedroom. Just for good measure, I repeated the banishing rituals and opened the door to the living room. Constance was busy in the kitchen, and Jean-Paul was playing with his trucks on the living room floor. He looked up and giggled, "Look at Papa's eyes." I mumbled something and then went to the kitchen to get a drink of water. It all seemed so unreal to me now. The details faded like early morning dreams when you become conscious of the fact that you're waking up. I stretched out on my back on the living room rug and struggled to reconstruct the chronology of events. This would have to go into my diary. I closed my eyes just for a moment and realized how exhausted I was. I wanted to fall asleep. And I was drifting toward that golden moment of surrender when the painful roar of a mufflerless automobile shattered my peace. Indeed, the peace of the entire neighborhood. We ran to the window to see an old rusted Chevrolet pulling up in the driveway. It was dented in so many places and missing so much chrome that it was impossible to tell the year or model. Literally, it was a car from hell. To our terror, it rolled directly up in front of our front door and stopped. The driver gunned the engine with one last smoky blast and then turned it off. It was Mad Bob. We hadn't seen him in 2 years. The last we heard that he was in Guatemala with his girlfriend. He hadn't written us, but she did. The last letter from her said something like, "We just love it down here. Bob is teaching us to eat mosquitoes." It was just like Bob to make an entrance like that. We were all very excited to see him. We all endured his crushing hugs at the door and tried to pull him inside. He laughed maniacally, his trademark, but wouldn't be coaxed into a chair. Instead, he threw his car keys at me and said, "The car is yours. Now you have to drive me back to Long Beach. I've got less than an hour to catch a ride back to Guatemala." What the F happened to your eyes? He didn't give me time to answer. He pushed me into the driver's side of the old Chevy, and we headed down the Pacific Coast Highway to his rendezvous in Long Beach. On the way, he did all the talking, telling me about the car's idiosyncrasies and secrets. He had me drop him off near downtown. As he got out, he looked at his watch. 40 minutes. The old gal made pretty good time. He pulled what looked like the pink slip for his car out of his wallet and told me to fill it out however I wanted. "Thanks, Bob. You don't know how much this means to me." He giggled. "Sure I do." We shook hands through the passenger window, and he disappeared around the corner. I took a moment and looked around my new car. The floorboard was missing in places, and I could look down between my feet and see the street. Almost every knob and door handle was missing. The horn worked, and the lights, and the radio. In the ashtray, I found about 60 cents in change. On the way home, I stopped at a convenience store and used the change to buy an Orange County Register and a Three Musketeers bar for Constance. Once home, I tore into the Help Wanted section and circled 3 opportunities I could reach in my new car. I went to bed early, and the next morning applied in person at all 3. The third one, a medical device manufacturer, hired me on the spot. My first new job paid little over minimum wage, but I didn't care. My first payday was the following Friday. We bought groceries, and at the end of the month, I paid the rent. In a little over a month, as a reward for being the only person in my department dedicated enough to actually show up to work every day, they made me lead man of my section, and a month later, foreman of my department. That position lasted less than 2 months because I was promoted to the quality assurance lab, and 6 weeks later, asked to join the engineering department. It has been over 20 years since that first evocation. Obviously, I view it as a successful operation. That day was the pivotal moment in my adult life. As a matter of fact, it was the first day of my adult life. Mad Bob's gift of a car within the prescribed 1 hour was the unambiguous catalyst that triggered a chain reaction of events that have manifested everything that I demanded. And remember what those were? Dignities. Since the evocation, I've enjoyed the dignity of being able to support and care for my family. I've also been singularly fortunate in my magical career. Within 1 year of the evocation, I was given a great deal of responsibility in the OTO, which over the years has expanded considerably. I've tried to shoulder my duties with honor and dignity. I love the order and consider my membership to be the single most important factor in my magical reality. Remember that word prelacies? Prelacies. A prelacy is a church office. A bishop is a prelate. On the same occasion, I was honored with more responsibilities in the OTO. I was also, quite unexpectedly, consecrated bishop in Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica, the Gnostic Catholic Church, which is the ecclesiastical arm of the OTO. Several years later, I was appointed archbishop and was co-consecrated on 3 additional occasions. The favor of friends and foes. Over the years, it has been particularly helpful. I've discovered that more often than not, I do not have the good sense to recognize either a friend or a foe, and it's much easier to enjoy the favor of both and not give a damn who's who. True answers of divinity and of the creation of the world was the next power. I continue to be a passionate student of the Kabbalah, at least those aspects of the Holy Kabbalah of interest to Hermetic magicians. I've written quite a bit on the subject and created a tarot deck incorporating the various aspects of Kabbalistic magic. And finally, he's very faithful unto the exorcist and will not suffer him to be tempted of any spirit. And for this service, I remain perpetually grateful. And that's the end of the chapter. I know it's been a little long this time, but I hope you sat through the whole thing and enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow at the same time if Facebook lets me on. And be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.